Yeah, so let's talk about what happens when a cult leader kicks the bucket and what we can expect to see when we hear the news of the big, beautiful burial. I'm Daniella, a scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership. I've written a book called Uncultured about growing up in the Children of God religious cult and then going into the cult of the U.S. Army. You can get signed copies attached here or listen to me read it to you anywhere you get your audiobooks. So, cults of personality almost never survive the death of the person. Now, cults of personality are not the only kind of cults. So when we say cults don't pass down really well, people are going to jump in with, what about Scientology? What about Mormonism? What about even Children of God, the cult that I grew up in? So to start with, there are two different things that can be the charismatic authority of the cult: a person or an idea. Robert Lifton, who's one of the first people who studied brainwashing, talked about how a totalitarian group can be led by an idea. There are leaders in that structure, humans, but the top is an idea. Now, some cults of idea are Scientology. He built his world, and even though he was deified as the leader, I think L. Ron Hubbard always cared more about the world that he built and the ideas that he had than about him being the leader of the cult. Mormonism, I believe, started as a cult of personality, the cult of Joseph Smith, and then Brigham Young changed it to be a cult of an idea. We are the one true church. This is why, in my opinion, we only know the first two prophets of the Mormon church if we are outside of Mormonism. The United States military is another cult led by an idea, and I've written not one, but two books that cover the military as a cult. Culting of America comes out January 20th, and you can get pre-orders attached here. Military is a cult that answers to an idea. That idea is upholding the Constitution, right? Defending the Constitution. This is why, even though the military is a cult, it's not a cult that answers to Donald Trump. He's just the first human in that leadership structure under the idea. Okay. So we had a cult of many cults of ideas. As many people have noted, this singular push for Christian nationalists to get the White House, this has been going on since the 80s. And there were all these different cults of idea. I call the idea racist conservatism, that Trump harvested and brought into one cult, the cult of MAGA, which is absolutely a cult of personality, right? It could be called the cult of Trump. So is it going to pass down? Very, very unlikely. We have very few incidences of cults of personality passing down successfully. The Children of God was one of them, right? So in the Children of God, our leader started Children of God in 1968, died in, I want to say 1998. Right? So for 30 years, he led this cult. It was a cult of he is the prophet of God, right? Pretty early on, he left his wife for a young lady, right? And started preparing the organization that she was going to take over for him when he moved on. Now, cult leaders do not like to acknowledge their own mortality and generally do not like to make succession plans. What was very convenient for David Berg of Children of God was that he set it up that he talked directly to Jesus and to heaven. So in theory, he was never going to go away. He was just going to, as they called it when it happened, graduate to heaven and still be able to speak to us every day. He still tried to tell his wife, who took over for him, that she should pretend that he was not dead and just keep on going through him. That's what he actually wanted. She chose to do something different. So she took over the Children of God, and it didn't really shutter its big operations till 2009. So from 1998 to 2009, that seems like a successful pass down. It wasn't. It started fracturing as soon as the person was gone. Even with that link to him, we could all talk to him in heaven, so it's still a cult of personality. I believe it began to fracture right at that time. Scientology, which people love to bring up, same. David Miscavige had been identified years in advance as somebody who was in the leadership, who had the potential to take over. There was still a fight. It was still Game of Thrones when L. Ron Hubbard died. It's still incredibly fractured Scientology, and I still believe they are breaking up today. The internet has a lot to do with all of these OG cults breaking up as well. Okay, so now back to MAGA. And to be perfectly clear, MAGA is already falling apart. They trashed their mission when they said they were not going to release the Epstein files. And I feel like that was kind of like a throat slash. And they have been struggling ever since then. See right here where the transcendent mission is? They got rid of that, right? And they've just been bleeding out. I think Donald Trump knows that MAGA is going to fall apart as soon as he's gone. And I think he wants that to be true. He doesn't want to pass it down to anyone. He wants it to all fall apart without him, if he can even acknowledge his own mortality, which is questionable at best, right? But there are no David Miscaviges identified. Even when we make this video, just go ahead and watch the comments and they're going to devolve into, oh, it will be this person, it will be this person, it will be this person. Like, it will be Game of Thrones. When we hear the news of the big, beautiful burial, that will be the beginning of it all being over. And, oh, aren't you scared of Shady Vance? Nobody's scared of Shady Vance. You have to have a personality to take over a cult of personality, and nobody will even follow Shady Vance to a couch. And finally, I'm going to leave you with this. No amount of money and power can buy charisma. Just ask Elon Musk. Have a day, y'all. Stickers in the shop.